Good garbage is something that can be recycled, or it can be reused, it can be composted. It's something that will have a second life somehow.
Hello. Welcome to the Good Garbage Podcast. My name is Ved Krishna. My primary reason for existence has been to find ways to leave our wonderful planet cleaner. We will be speaking with material innovators, creators, and propagators to learn from them how we can build for scale and towards a regenerative future. Their stories will help us answer the big question, what is good garbage? Hello. Today I get to speak to a fellow Portlander, Cory Connors, and we have so much in common between us, apart from being based in Portland. We are both passionate about packaging and sustainability. Cory has also started the Sustainable Packaging podcast. He's, of course, done this work far longer and more effectively, I would say, than me. He has a huge social media following as well. And apart from that, like me, he's driving Orora Packaging towards providing sustainable solutions to customers. This conversation is a lot about understanding the market and the needs and providing users with the ideas that will enable success. I was totally blown away by the kind of details Orora Packaging and Cory go into to ensure that the solutions that they provide are apt. I'm sure you will appreciate the perspective Cory brings in. Enjoy the conversation. Hello. This is a first for me. I have a fellow podcaster, Cory Connors, who has been in this world of podcasting and sustainable packaging from way longer than me. Cory, your podcast is called Sustainable Packaging Podcast. And of course, I'm also excited to talk to you about your packaging background and your work with Orora Packaging and others. But thank you so much for agreeing to be on the show.
Oh, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. I'm honored to be here.
Great. And of course, I forgot to mention we are fellow Portlanders. So that's another common thread.
The Great Northwest, yeah.
I know. Let's start on where did you grow up? What influenced you to get into sustainable packaging? Give us a brief and spiel on that.
Yeah, great question. I grew up in the Northwest, in Portland, and it taught me how to be aware of the environment. We spent a lot of times in the woods, and we had a forest right behind my house, and me and my two big brothers and little sister would run around in the woods and explore and appreciate our environment, and come home filthy dirty, and our parents were like, good job, you had a good day. We'll hose you off outside. But it was an honor to learn how to be sustainable here. We were the first state to have a bottle deposit system. So when I went to California the first time and realized they didn't recycle cans, I was just blown away by that. Like, why don't you do that? So now, of course, that's changed for the better, but I think you just get used to being sustainable and being aware of things like recycling and the environment, and then you try to teach others about it. So that's what I'm here to do.
So it was definitely the Pacific Northwest that influenced you, but you also went into packaging pretty early on. What our research showed was like literally high school or something. So how did that happen, and why packaging? You could have gone into numerous sustainable domains.
Right. Well, it was kind of fell into a job at Weyerhaeuser, which was a corrugated mill, which is where I got my nickname Corrugated, which is kind of something I've actually trademarked now. But my cousin worked there, and he said, "Hey, man, this is a great place to work." I wasn't ready to go to college. I knew I wouldn't concentrate. I wouldn't, do a good job there. So I said, "I'll just go work for a year full time, right out of high school." And I did. I spent a year full-time at Weyerhaeuser making corrugated boxes, working on all the different machines, the corrugator, all the different flexo printing machines, die cutters, everything. So learned about all that stuff, and then spent the next 4 years after that in college while working full-time, but going to college part-time, paying my way through with that money.
And what did you get to study while you were working?
Studied advertising, wanted to make commercials. So I have a degree in advertising management and marketing. And when I graduated from Portland State University, no one was hiring No, not a single not a single advertising agency was hiring. So I went to a job fair at Portland State University, and Kent H. Landsberg had a booth there. And I thought, well, I know about packaging. I could do this for a little while. And 21 years later, I'm still there, and I love it. It's just an awesome company to work for and with.
Wow, I didn't realize you'd been there that long. And let's dig into the company. And since you've mentioned that, and is that the same as Orora Packaging when you say
Yeah,
Kent? Yeah.
yeah. Kent, Mr. Landsberg started the company out of his garage in California, and it's gone through several name changes and a merger and a demerger, and now we're back to our roots as Orora Packaging Solutions, which is Landsberg Orora, or depends on who you talk to, but that's the name we go with, and people know about Landsberg still and appreciate that lineage, the history. But it's just a great company to work for and with. I'm honored to be a part of the team as the director of sustainable packaging.
And I hear that this is a pretty big packaging concern, and it's like what we found out was 75 countries. That's like a lot of places. And so, what all do they do? What does it encompass, the whole packaging domain of Orora?
Yeah, so we're about a $5 billion packaging company based out of Melbourne, Australia. And so we're the largest wine bottle manufacturer, the largest aluminum can manufacturer. We import 100% recycled paper from Australia, and we turn it into corrugated here in California in our own production facilities. We have a division called Orora Visual, where we make point of purchase displays and signage, and it's very diverse. We are truly a one-stop shop of sustainable packaging. So we can, when you go to a box company, they're going to sell you a box. When you go to a packaging solutions provider like Orora, we're going to provide you with the best solution for your concern.
And does it have to be sustainable, or is it a wider array of products as well?
Yeah, we certainly focus on sustainability and try to urge our customers to use more sustainable packaging. And we've had a flood of new customers recently because that's been our major focus, which has been exciting. People are concerned. They don't know what to do. They see these upcoming extended producer responsibility laws, and they say, oh my gosh, are we in trouble? Are we going to be ready for those laws? Is the packaging we're using going to be acceptable? And I'm getting phone calls from very concerned packaging buyers and senior managers saying, hey, can you help us make sure we're going to be okay? Because frankly, a lot of people aren't. And it's time now to look at what you're using and if it's going to be the right choice for the future.
And when you think about sectors, of course, you mentioned like boxes and box boards and corrugation, and of course, I love the name that you came up with. Corrugated is so, and I saw at corrugated, and it was like, wow, he's really got that one really well, and I'm glad that you actually made sure that it belongs to you. But if we look at the sectors that Orora is operating in, if you do a broad segregation by, say, percentage, what would it be? Would it be corrugation as the main one, or do you also do flexible packaging? Do you do rigid packagings, other rigid packagings? How does that pie look like?
I don't know the exact percentages, but yes, corrugated is certainly our focus, at least in North America. Like I said, in Australia, glass, aluminum, paper, all kinds of materials. But for North America, for Orora Packaging Solutions here, yes, corrugated, point of purchase displays, flexible packaging. We do a lot of primary packaging. We do all kinds of packaging.
But when you look at the providing packaging, is it all manufactured by Aurora, or is it also, outsourced and collected, and, the design and the solution comes from you, and then you sort of arrange it, or you might even use tollers? How does the system work? How is the supply chain?
Yeah, great point. We don't manufacture everything that we provide, which allows us to work with our partners globally to provide the right solution. A lot of companies don't have a distribution network. We have 70 locations in North America. We have 100 designers ready to provide the right solution for your item or your entire line of materials or products. So it becomes something that we can say, well, maybe this isn't going to be a corrugated solution. Maybe it's molded pulp. Maybe it's FlexiHex, which is our new exclusive material that we've partnered with them. Maybe it's Scotch Cushion Lock. Maybe that's the right material for this item to package it sustainably and safely.
And does it at all matter what needs to be packaged? Are you more focused on, if we look at another pie, is it more like food? Is it more, could it be cosmetics? Could it be e-commerce? Yeah. How does that pie look? And is there a focus there at all, or it is agnostic of that?
I think that's the best part, is we get to work with all kinds of companies. I've never been bored here. Working with major national brands to small mom and pop startups. So we have the full spectrum from electronics to food to e-commerce. So we get to do all those things, and really have been focused on custom packaging as of late. But we do also have a great line of stock packaging too.
And that sounds like a really challenging business to be in, because if you're going to do custom packaging, that probably means printing and branding for the partner customer, and thinking about the size you guys are in terms of $5 billion is what you said. Trying to do these small batches. How challenging is that, and how do you make that work?
Yes, I learn something new every day is the answer to that. I'm researching, I'm learning from other mill reps or other salespeople or customer service, and they're teaching me. I'm a sponge every day. I'm learning new things. 26 years in this business, and I still feel like I'm just getting started. It's overwhelming. I'm working with one of our new rookies, and I'm trying to install all of my knowledge into his brain, and realizing how long I've been doing this and how much information I know, and how much I still don't know. It's exciting. It's an honor to be a part of that kind of lineage, but to be able to sit down with a customer and have ideas for them is not easy. And it took me a long time. I was very thankful to have the knowledge of corrugated when I started as a rookie salesperson, because to be 22 and to look across the table at someone in their 40s and say, "I'm here to help you, sir," or "ma'am," and have them look back and say, "Come on, kid. Yeah, right." But then I would start talking about corrugated and platen die presses and rotary, and this at least he knows corrugated. So that helped me get by and helped me eventually succeed here.
And I'm sure while you're having these discussions, and especially since you're so widespread in terms of solutions, how do you work out the cost side? Because there'll always be that player who's only focused in that domain, and it could be that boxes is your thing, but it could be somebody who is doing flexible packaging and is an expert in that. How does the customer look at that, and how are you able to make the sale? And can you always compete on cost, or it's just the value that you bring to the table? How does that whole transaction and interaction work?
Yeah, I would say we're always at least competitive. We're certainly not always going to be the lowest cost, but imagine having to call 10 vendors to follow up on all the different materials that you buy, versus imagine having to call one. So we become that one-stop shop where you can consolidate everything, have it in our warehouse where we hold it for you, deliver it just in time, so you're not stocking truckloads of material, and you're able to focus on production of your product and creation of what you sell. Let us handle packaging, and we'll bring it to you just in time, right when you need it.
Wow, that's a great offering. But I'm still intrigued on the idea of small batch sizes. How small can a
Mm.
batch be? If there's a small mom and pop shop that needs certain cartons printed in a certain
Yeah.
branding, would you do that, or there has to be a minimum order size for you?
Yeah, I think with the onset of digital print, the minimums have kind of gone away. It's really awesome to see, whereas with flexographic printing, if you're not talking about 5,000 units, I'm just talking about kind of a normal, regular slotted container. If you're not talking about 2,500, 5,000, it's probably not going to make sense financially to do something custom. So we would then urge people into stock packaging, where you can dress that up using custom labels, custom tape, custom void fill products, custom inner packaging, things like that are printed with your logo and make that experience. We like to say at Orora, it's the promise of what's inside. And I think we're creating this anticipation where it's this opening experience that we try to provide.
And that probably comes from a strong design discipline. And how does that
Yeah.
work? I guess you said you have a bunch of, like you said, 100 designers. And
Mhm.
is that people who are actually looking at what the customer needs and designing their entire experience,
Yeah.
the final consumer's experience of unboxing and, of course, the boxing experience as well for the customer? Is that a whole suite of services that you guys provide, and does the design team play a big role in you having a special value add for the customer?
Yeah, we actually have a brand new sustainable packaging design lab that we are opening just in the next month or two, based out of San Jose, California, where we will be prototyping all the way down to the customer could say, could you 3D print this item for us? We're looking at maybe changing this way of doing things. It's going to be amazing. I cannot wait for these new potential capabilities. Our CMO Chris Bradley and our team has just totally they're absolutely changing the way we're going to do things for the better. So we're very strong now, but we'll be even stronger then and be able to have a more interactive experience. So we want to work with the consumer or the customer partner that we're working with and say, what are your goals? What are you trying to do? What's the look and feel you're going for here? Is high PCR content your number one priority? What's the goal here? Sometimes it's just, we want to save money. Okay, that's fine too. We can do that as well. Or we want to be the next Gucci or Coach, brand, and so we'll do very high-end packaging for that while still keeping it as sustainable as possible.
Yeah, that I'm sure the customer really values that service. And you said, there's a
Yeah.
wider array of services. It could be a lower cost and it could be a
Yeah.
higher kind of expensive design. And
Hmm.
that takes me really well. And I'm intrigued by the whole idea of your role, which is sustainable packaging. And of course, that's
Hmm.
where, our whole ethos comes in. Do you find that it is a challenge in two terms? And I'd love to hear your perspectives on this. One, of course, in terms of performance, because in the end, the role of a packaging is to protect what is inside, and the
Right.
customer wouldn't want to compromise on that. So finding the right substrate to be able to do that, and as
Hmm.
soon as you look for sustainable packaging, it's sort of everybody takes for granted that it's going to be more expensive. So, what
Hmm.
has your experience been with both of these ideas?
Yeah, that's an exciting part of this whole thing is that's really changed. When I first started talking about green packaging or environmentally friendly packaging, which is what we used to call it, remember, before it was sustainable, with companies like Powell's Books, where I learned how to do this. They taught me, said, "Hey, that's not sustainable enough, or that's not green enough. We want something better. Keep looking, keep finding something that's easily recycled or made from recycled materials." So it wasn't an option. It wasn't like, if you feel like it. It was, if you want to work with us, we're going to be this. This is our ethos. This is how we feel about the world. And so they were a real leader in the Northwest and in frankly in the USA. And I was fortunate to get to work with them as a young rep and learn from them. So it's an exciting part of this job.
And is that when you talk about Powell Books, is it mostly corrugation and cartons?
Yes. Yeah, they mostly craft papers and corrugated materials.
Yeah. So I want to dig deeper into other substrates because that's where corrugation has been there for such a long time, and yes, you can figure out recycled content, etc. But like we mentioned, things like you mentioned, even molded fiber or flexible packaging. If you look at those, when you look at those, do you face any challenges at all when it comes to performance or cost, and how do you work around that?
I like to say there's nothing sustainable about damaged product. So if it doesn't perform, you failed, and your intentions were great, and that's awesome, and thank you for trying. But if you're delivering something and it breaks, and your consumer has to ship it back, or then you have to ship another one, not only do you have packaging that's not performed well, but you've upset your customer, and they probably won't buy from you again. And that's bad for the bottom line. That's potentially going out of business. So we always start with performance and making sure that the materials will perform. We have customers reaching out to us wanting to down gauge their film for their primary item, or go to a monomaterial, or go to a compostable film. These are all things that are in the process, and we're working on them, and we're making great strides, but we're going to test them. We're going to make sure that they work. We're going to put them into a chamber to make sure that they don't pop. We're gonna drop test until it fails to see what else could we do differently. Maybe we need another inch of corrugated. Maybe we need another layer of Scotch cushion lock. Whatever the case may be. We don't want to use materials because they sound sustainable or because they appear to be sustainable if they're going to fail on the shelf. And a lot of things need to be shelf stable for months, or sometimes more. And there are a lot of food deserts where you have to ship you're aware of this in India. It's not always easy to put something in a more sustainable package. If it needs plastic, it needs plastic. We're not there yet to be 100% plastic free, and I don't think that's our goal today. The goal is to reduce and to use the right material for the right product.
And what about the costing side? Say if a material was to work, say you had and just for the sake of it, a compostable flexi pack, and it worked, but it was 40% more expensive. Do you think it'll be a hard sell, or today the customer is ready for that 40%?
I think there's a lot of sticker shock with that, especially with compostables, because they're so new, and then we remind them of the lack of infrastructure for composting industrially. We're just not there yet. It's in process, and there's a lot of great strides, and that material can make a lot of sense for a lot of areas and for a lot of people. But you're right, there are very expensive alternatives, But then there's the flip side of that, where there are huge cost savings. If you're going from, imagine a truckload of polystyrene wine bottle packages. They don't nest, they don't shrink, they don't, whereas something like FlexiHex, look at how small that is. It's tiny, and it does the same job, and it expands. So maybe this costs 5% more, but maybe it saves you 80% in your freight bill and your storage costs. So look at the full scope of doing business, and we want to look at that as a full solution.
Yeah, that's an interesting insight, that you can't just look at price as such. You have to look at the overall impact. The Good Garbage podcast has been brought to you by Pakka. Pakka has been creating solutions in the food packaging, carry, and service space. Pakka utilizes sugarcane residue and upcycles it into amazing products. Their latest offering is a compostable, flexible packaging solution for the chocolate and confectionery industry. The products are available in the Indian subcontinent and in North America now. Pakka is also building an end-to-end solutions for customers in the food service and delivery space. For any query, do email at connect@pakka.com, and Pakka is Pakka. Now, back to the show. So Cory, you're so exposed to different domains in packaging, and of course, with your exposure towards meeting people through your podcast and other mediums, you have a full array of different materials and trends that are happening. Are there a few of these materials and trends that shout out to you?
Yeah, I'm excited about all the new void fill options that are 100% post-consumer recycled material. They used to have the best, the highest post-consumer recycled content in paper I saw before recently was 30%. And now there's 100% post-consumer recycled paper, like Scotch Cushion Lock, like FlexiHex. Like these materials are absolutely incredible, because not only are they made from 100% recycled paper, they perform. And I think that's what we talked about before, is if it doesn't perform, it's not sustainable. I don't care if it's made out of lawn clippings. It doesn't matter. If it doesn't work, it's you're just wasting time here. You're wasting space. But there are so many really, really cool things happening. I'm excited about using waste materials like wheatgrass and using those fibers, banana stalks, things like that are being turned into packaging materials or products. I'd love to see that, things that used to be garbage or like you say, good garbage, are now being turned into something usable or reusable. And I think that's the third one, is I really like the idea of reusable packaging. We're going back to the basics. We're going back to the concept of reusable milk containers, reusable soda bottles. Other countries like Mexico have been doing that for years, and successfully. Why did we go away from that? Well, it's more convenient, right? But what if we make reusable very convenient? And I think that's where we're heading.
I just love the trends that you chose, because they're just so different from each other in terms of recycle, reuse, and agro waste, or waste material based. I think it's just I was definitely excited to hear what you were going to say, and you definitely piqued that excitement a little more. Just coming from my place of ignorance, what does, and maybe some of the listeners may not know this, what does void fill mean? What does it stand for?
Very simple. Just any packaging material that takes up space in a box. We call it blocking and bracing. You don't when you do the shake test, when you take a box and you literally shake it, and if it doesn't move, generally that's a good sign for a package. You don't want it to be able to build up that inertia when you drop it. So you want it to stop. You want it to be held tight. So that's important. You don't want a lot of void in the box.
Super. Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah.
And I guess even things like a bubble wrap and stuff would also do something like this. And of course, you showed me a paper version of a similar cushioning kind of system.
Right. Yes, and that used to be the old go-to was plastic bubble, and it was a great product for a long time, but frankly, it just doesn't get recycled very often. It's not easy to recycle today. Now, hopefully that will change, but I think that's why a lot of people are changing to alternatives that are more sustainable, easier to recycle curbside, or to reuse. So that's been a really cool trend to watch.
Super. And this takes me well to recycling. And I spoke a lot about it to our common friend, Tom Zaki. And
Yeah.
and he drilled a lot of sense into me. But when I grew up in the domain in India and grew up in looking at especially the pulp and paper industry, which in India is almost 80% recycled, and only
Wow.
about 14% comes from plantations, and that also social forestry, and about 6% comes from agro waste. But what I saw was two things, and this is where I would love to pick your brains and how you think about this. What I would see is that typically most of the raw material would get collected, stacked, sorted in places like the United States or Europe. It would be transported all the way to a port in India, say the west of the country. It would then be taken inland, maybe even 1,000 kilometers. It would use almost 60 to 70% of the energy and recover maybe 50% of the material, which was actually what we would call downcycled, because it's waste material. You'll get mixed waste, and you would have to make the most of it. And then many times it would ship all the way back, and that
Right.
really baffled me. And so, what do you think about this whole trend of recycling slash downcycling? And how do you, what would be an ideal situation for you when you think about recycled content?
Yeah, great question. And yes, I'm a big fan of Tom Zaki. It's been an honor to get to speak with him a few times in at different events. And he's such a smart person. Certainly looked up to him for a long time. But you're exactly right. If you're shipping materials all over the world and just with intent of recycling, it doesn't always pan out. The life cycle analysis doesn't always make sense. So the point is we need to keep things local. It's just why we have 70 locations. We want people to buy from, get their packaging from the place that's closest to them. We want to manufacture the material where it's closest to them, and then we want the recycling facility to be as close to them as possible, and then convert it, sort it, and then turn it into a usable product as close to us as possible. So I think you're going to see more and more recycling facilities open. Especially with the onset of extended producer responsibility. Things like polypropylene, things like polystyrene, if they're allowed to be used, they're going to be recycled locally, I think, and then turned into something that can be reused again, which is exciting. We need that. We absolutely have the capabilities of it. We just need more. We need more locations. We need more infrastructure for the material recycling facilities, and I think you're going to see that. You're going to see a huge boost in infrastructure for that globally. I hope so. I hope you're seeing that too. And I want to say India is certainly a leader, and we look to India to learn how to recycle paper, how to use this material multiple times. What you've been doing over there is incredible.
And Tom Zaki was definitely the one who scrubbed my brain on this whole idea of localization and how
Right.
TerraCycle is doing it. And of course, you mentioned reuse, and that was another trend that I'm sure you know Jocelyn and Bold Reuse and what they are doing in Portland area. And it was super
Yeah.
interesting to see that. But that would impact your business directly. How do you see that
Mhm.
idea of reuse, or do you see that blending into the solutions that you provide as well?
Yes, absolutely. We encourage it. We're working on reusable packaging options for our customers. We want to be a part of the solution. We don't want to hold back anyone who wants to go to a reusable scheme because they work if done correctly. Like you mentioned, Bold Reuse in Portland, they're amazing. I had them on the show, and great people doing great things. Think about it: if you go to a Blazer game or any event, any place where you're staying for a while, and you're having drinks or having food. Why would you use a single use when you could just refill something or put it into a reuse bin where it'll get cleaned? So it makes sense. It's the way to go.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with you. So, you're passing in the beginning, you said there are some papers that you import from Australia. Is that because
Mhm.
it's a little more special and you don't get it in the US? What is
Yep.
the logic for that? And I presume there is one with your great insight into the
Yeah.
whole recycling trend as well. So, would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so we've increased our post-consumer recycled material percentage for our corrugated production in North America by 4% year over year. Now, I know that sounds like a small amount, but it's pretty dramatic for a company our size. And I think, you know, I was talking to somebody the other day about Amazon using ships in own container SIOC packaging. They shipped 3% of their materials, increased 3% last year. When you're shipping 6,000 packages a minute, that's a big deal. You know what I mean? So it's these numbers might sound minute and small, but when you look at the big picture, it's tons and tons and tons of paper and material that's been recovered through the post-industrial and post-consumer material.
And I presume you're still able to retain the quality aspects of the final
Yeah,
material, even using more post consumer recycled paper.
exactly. And that's why we want to focus on that. As you know, looking at the performance, we have testing equipment that it must pass these tests. It must perform to a level that the customer expects, or we just won't use it.
Superb. And that, on that note, I'm going to segue a little because there's so many other
Mhm.
interesting aspects of your life. Of course, our common interest of meeting people in this domain. So, how did the
Mhm.
podcast happen? And you just before we started, you said you've done 200 and some shows already, which is way, way, way beyond where I am right now. But would love to hear how you got into this idea and how did it evolve, and how has that whole process been?
Yeah, I honestly I didn't want to at first. I was overwhelmed at work in a good way. Lots of great projects going, and Avelio and Adam, who I mentioned before, encouraged me. They both had podcasts, and they said, "Hey, you should do one too about sustainable packaging because you talk about it all the time." And I said, "No, no, no." And then eventually I said, "Okay." And so my wife and I figured out how to do it, and uh, she encouraged me to continue to go, and it's just taken off. We just passed 55,000 downloads this week, which I never anticipated. But I'm so thankful to be a part of this community of sustainable packaging. Influencers, if you will, and I really try to have people on that will add value to the network and people that are exciting to listen to.
That's amazing. 55,000 downloads is amazing for a
Thank
such a
you.
specific subject, right? It's sustainable packaging. So tell me more about who do you find to be the users, or not the users, listeners,
Yeah.
and what has that trend been like? Are they mostly people from the industry, or do you see people just from the general public interested in the environment and sustainable packaging? What's the general trend there?
It's honestly, it's very surprising. I'll get people that reach out to me that are school teachers and just enjoy, want to be stewards of the planet. And I'll get students, college students, and high school students, and it's mostly professionals from the packaging industry, buyers, designers, people like that who are interested. But it's been quite a journey from zero to that. It was a lot of work, thousands of hours of effort, and I'm thankful to my sponsors, Orora Packaging and 3M, Scotch, Cushion Lock, and SpecRite, my three biggest sponsors, and I appreciate them. They're great people, and I'm honored to be a part of their team.
How long have you been at it?
It's been about 2.5 years now. Yeah.
And how many episodes were you mentioning exactly, rather than my odd figure?
I just edited and recorded my 250th episode.
Wow. So you're releasing more than one a week?
Sometimes 3 a week. Yeah.
Wow. So the format is much more short, and it is more. So mine gets to be, because I'm, again, like you, I'm from the packaging industry, and I get very, very excited about the geeky side of it, and it gets very science oriented, and and I love that. But I hear that you keep it more open for listeners to be able to digest. So talk to me more about the format, and how did you evolve this, and why did you think that this was the right fit?
I think I wanted to make it short enough to where you could listen on a trip. Like around town, running errands, or a 20-minute treadmill session, or a half-hour workout, things like that. I was thinking that people are going to listen to it while they're doing other things, and wanted to accommodate that process, that thought, make it something that they could even listen to a couple episodes in a day, like you mentioned, and not feel like they're bored by the topic by the time it gets through. It can be like you said, very nuanced, very scientific topics, some of them. So on average, I would say they're about 25 minutes long.
And is there I know that you mentioned that there's a large amount of people, teachers and students, who are listening to it, but is it targeted towards a certain kind of audience, or is it, you try to make it more broad-based?
Yeah, intentionally, I'm trying to make it so more people would be interested, because all consumers are involved with packaging. I think that's something we forget, is every consumer, every person that eats anything that's purchased has been a part of this system, and they need to be aware that pizza boxes are recyclable. They need to be aware that glass can be recycled. Things like this that maybe not everybody knows. Things that I take for granted because I go to things like Waste Expo and Pack Expo, and I'm learning these things from these experts who are brilliant people. But I'm just trying to, I get people reaching out all the time. Oh, I learned this. Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. Or I learned that you could do this, or you could reuse that. And it's pretty awesome. I feel honored to be a part of it.
I thank you for the work you're doing, because this actually, everybody in the industry ultimately benefits from people knowing more about packaging and how it works. But I also see that you are on a medium which I have no clue about, apart from hearing from my daughters, which is TikTok. How does that work, and how does that help? And I hear you have almost 90,000 or over that followers on that.
Yeah, I was not into social media at all. I had a LinkedIn account, and that was it. I didn't have a Facebook or anything. And I was listening to Gary Vaynerchuk just before the pandemic, and he said, tell people what you do, tell people about what you know, and it'll expand your network. You'll meet awesome people. You'll get to do new things, have great opportunities. And he was right. It took off. I went from zero to 50,000 followers in a very short time, like 9 months or something like that. And I had no idea how many people would be interested in sustainable packaging, and just trying to add value to those audiences and help them start their business. During the pandemic, thousands, tens of thousands of people started businesses. I would get contacted all the time. How do I package this candle sustainably? How do I package this sustainably? How can I make this so it's recyclable? So I started posting those answers, and okay, if you had a candle, here's an idea. Here's how you could package it. And then I would post that, and it'd get 1,000 views. And I would say, whoa, 1,000 people cared about that. And then it got 10,000 views, and then, in the 100, and then some of them millions of views. And it's overwhelming. It's an honor. I'm so thankful to have this platform. And I feel like this weight on my shoulders to do the right thing and show the right kinds of materials for people to use.
Oh, that's absolutely brilliant. And this will be a very difficult question because since I do a podcast and I've just done a few episodes and I couldn't answer this, but I'm still hoping you would. What have been a few of your favorite episodes slash, I shouldn't say guests because I think everybody is a favorite, but, have there been certain episodes which you really enjoyed and really gained from?
Oh, yeah. You mentioned Tom Zaki before. It was I was the most nervous I'd ever been interviewing him because I looked up to him for my whole career. I just was like, I'm interviewing somebody who I've just idolized and just learned so much from. But he is one of the coolest people ever. He's just like so down to earth, just so awesome to interview, and it was a great episode. I learned a lot. We talked about everything from worm poop to global recycling issues, and just incredible. So that was really fun. Interviewing Frederick Drew from Unilever was really amazing. He is a brilliant person. Interviewing Chris Bradley and Sam Bowie about the FlexiHex launch for Orora was really fun. That was just a few weeks ago, and because we got to, it was a celebration of 2 years of work, where Chris saw me use FlexiHex in a TikTok video, and drop a bottle of wine, and it survived. In a 10-foot drop, it survived.
Wow, that's amazing.
And then 2 years later, we have an exclusive partnership with this company. So that was like the fruition of this effort. It's really cool to be a part of that.
That's beautiful to hear. And in a way, it's much better that you were in awe of Tom Zaki and hence you were better prepared. I did not know that much about Tom Zaki when I actually interviewed him, except, of course, I saw the TerraCycle label here and there, and I was like, okay. And you're right, he was brilliant. He just knew stuff, and it was an absolute brilliant episode for us as well to have Tom and learn from him so much. And actually, because I come from a jaded view on recycling in a way. So it was great for me to get that brain scrub and open my eyes to a different world.
That's a great point too. And we need to realize that, and this is something that's opened my eyes. I interviewed my friend Chandru from South Africa, and he put it into perspective, like, hey, recycling is a luxury. Sustainability is a luxury over here. Most people are just trying to survive. And to have this, perspective of, and get to learn from people from all over the planet has been really fun and very humbling, honestly.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you. And that takes me towards the end questions. And of course, yours is going to be a little bit more complex when we ask these questions because you don so many hats. So if you think about scaling, and that's something I always want to learn more about, because the size of the challenge is so large, and I see that Orora is doing things at a certain scale and changing things at a certain scale. But how do you see both these hats, at least in terms of your podcast? How do you see scaling that, and how do you see scaling sustainable packaging at Aurora? If you want to give numbers that this is where you want to be in 5 years, sure, or just
Yeah.
a concept on how you want to scale both of these areas that you're actively involved in.
Yeah, I think that's a good word to use, scale. And because I think that's been an issue in the past, is we weren't ready. People weren't ready to change their packaging to a new material. And now all of a sudden we have the scale needed to bring the cost down. We've reached the tipping point on a lot of these solutions where all of a sudden, people are ordering truckloads of these materials that weren't before, and the costs are easier to attain, frankly, which is exciting. The business is scaling. The business is responsibly scaling. Efficiencies with these issues with employment and hiring the right people to do the right jobs. What a lot of companies were doing was making their production processes more efficient. And so we interviewed Ryan Fox the other day on our other podcast, which is Packaging Today. That's every Monday morning at 7:30 PST on LinkedIn and YouTube. But we interviewed him, and he said things that production facilities used to take 5 days to do something. Now it's 3 days, because their equipment is more efficient. And he said, imagine that on a national and global scale of efficiency. So what's happening is they're able to reassign employees to do different things, which is great.
In terms of Orora Packaging, you guys are already at $5 billion. Do you see that significantly growing in the next few years? And in terms of, because you're already at scales, so even in terms of podcast, you said 55,000 downloads. Do you see that increasing? So both of those, is there a number that you think it'll grow to, or at least in terms of percentages? How do you see that growing in, say, maybe a 5-year horizon?
Oh, absolutely. Our new president, Kelly Barlow, she's an incredible leader. She was one of my first bosses, so it's really neat to have somebody who used to be my direct report run our company here in North America. She's got a grand vision, and I think under her leadership and our senior team, we will grow, and we are growing. And I don't know the numbers exactly, but I do know that the intention is continued growth. We're hiring. If you're looking for a job, check out Orora Packaging Solutions. We're looking for sales reps and we don't just hire bodies. We hire people that are motivated to really make an impact and be a good partner to our customers.
And in terms of the podcast, 55,000 already. Do you see that going to 100,000 soon? How do you see the podcast?
I'd be honored to get to that kind of a number. Yes, definitely. I think it's exponential. It used to be dozens a week. Now it's thousands a week. And that's, I can't believe that. It will continue to grow, I think. I hope try to do my part to have exciting guests on and provide that value.
I hope so too. And that takes me well to the final question, and I'm really intrigued about how you're going to answer this one. What does good garbage mean to you?
Oh, good garbage is something that can be recycled, or it can be reused, it can be composted. It's something that will have a second life somehow. Will add value to the stream a second time.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Cory, for being on the show. Thank you for doing the work that you're doing in terms of providing amazing packaging and sustainable solutions at scale. And of course, spreading the word, which helps all of us. And thank you for being on this show. And I'm excited to meet you in person once I'm back in Portland. Thank you so much for this time.
I look forward to that. Thank you, Ved. Really appreciate this. This has been fun.
Thank you for listening to the Good Garbage Podcast. Follow us on social media to never miss an episode. Links are in the description below. I'm your host, Ved Krishna. See you next time.